Welcome back to Vote Home. This is season 3, and this time we're talking about something big, the parliamentary elections in Denmark on March 24. Now here's the catch. If you're international living in Denmark, chances are, well, you cannot vote. But you still live here, you work here, you pay taxes here, you might be raising your family here, or now or later. So today we're asking a simple question. What if you could vote?
Exactly, because this election will shape everything from jobs and taxes to integration, education, and citizenship rules. And yet, around 10% of people living in Denmark are not part of that decision. So instead of sitting this one out, we decided to do something different.
Exactly. We ran a survey through Last Week in Denmark, the weekly publication, asking internationals two things. What matters the most to you politically, and who would you vote if you could? And today, we're bringing that directly to the people who want your votes.
We've invited two candidates from different political blocs to react to your priorities and to one big idea that we will introduce later in the episode.
And by the end, we'll also show you how you can still influence the election, even if you don't have a vote. Just so you know, if in case you don't recognize our voices, it's me, Narcis George Matake, and I have with me...
Conrad Molden. I'm a comedian living here in Denmark.
Fantastic. Conrad, let's start by talking a little bit about the parliament elections, because I feel like many people hear a lot of things, right? Red, blue, yellow, purple. There's a lot of colors being thrown out there. So before we start, maybe we start by learning about the parliament elections.
Absolutely. We can do a quick crash course. So Denmark has a parliamentary system, and that means that people vote for parties, and then those parties negotiate to form a government.
And as I mentioned earlier, there's different colors. You have the red color, which, as you can imagine, it represents the left-leaning, historically at least, parties. Then you have the blue color, which is the right-leaning parties. And of course, you have the purple color, which is like a more recent color, you can say, which is supposed to be the middle color, the party who is both red and blue, or tries to combine the two sides together. Usually a social liberal party. Used to be in the past Radikale Venstre, of which we have actually one candidate here today with us. And today that space is being shared with Lars Løkke's party, with Moderaterna, which also claims to be a social liberal party. So we have two, let's just call them middle parties, although Radikale Venstre lately seems to be more included in the red bloc. In the past, they did flirt with the blue bloc, and they did I'm not sure if they governed ever with the blue bloc, but they been close with negotiating with them in the past. I would say that while the red parties are quite of a more or less united front, the blue parties find it's harder for them to have a common identity today, because you have the center-right parties, right? The Conservative, which again, we have a candidate with us here today, which are more center-right, more towards closer to the red, I would say. And the Venstre, the Liberals, the original agrarian party of Denmark. But you also have the far-right parties, right? The DF, Inge Støjberg's, the infamous DD's party, and Lars Boy's Citizens Party, right? So they have a bit of a harder time to have a coherent, let's just say, blue identity these days.
Exactly. And there's another key aspect to the parliamentary system, and that is that when you vote, you don't vote directly in Denmark for a prime minister. You vote only for a party, and then that majority decides who leads the government.
So as you can see, even small shifts in support can completely change the outcome. And that's exactly why today's thought experiment matters. So let's bring in our guests. Today we're joined by two candidates from different political blocs. Niklas, if you would like to introduce yourself first.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you on this podcast. I was here also during the European elections, and now I'm back for the parliament elections. Being international has always been part of my life. When I was 10 years old, my father started working abroad, and I quickly had to learn English. I remember one time where I was in Bulgaria, and one of the bartenders actually had to teach me how I should use the word can and cannot and all this. And so internationally, it has always been important for me to have room for internationals in Denmark. So my name is Niklas Verne. I'm 25 years old, and I'm running for the parliament for the Conservative Folkeparti, the Conservatives. And my three prime subjects that I want to change is, firstly, I want a flat tax, 39%, and make it possible for everyone who's in jobs to keep more of their own money. Second of all, I want to be tougher on crime. I don't think it's fair that people that almost kill another person are able to walk amongst the streets shortly after the incident. And finally, I want to prioritize the handicap area in Denmark. I think it's something that has been looked down upon for way too long. It has not been prioritized, and now it's time that we take this into Parliament.
Yeah, I saw the whole handicap area has made you quite popular in on the national news.
Yes.
I noticed. So we have Niklas from the blue side. Let's see who we have on the red side.
Hello, my name is Emil Moslund. I am 32 years old and I'm a running candidate for this last national election. Also a sitting council member in Copenhagen municipality, where I've been sitting and working as a politician since 2021. And right at this moment, I'm the chairman of the group in City Hall. And I am previously also been working in national parliament as the councillor for the now sitting chairman of the entire party, Martin Lidegaard, who is the previous foreign minister of Denmark. I'm very happy to be here. I also had a good conversation during my municipality elections when I had conversation with from all the people, Conrad as well, regarding getting more internationals to vote. So my party, the Social Liberal Party, Radikale Left, Radikale Venstre, we had this flyer, this banner out in 21 different languages, urging people actually to vote, because we knew that getting people to vote who was international of background was a vital part of doing democracy better, definitely in Copenhagen, where lots of international lives. I'm running on the green agenda and the international agenda. And why do I say these two things? Because international agenda is not really a thing, definitely when it comes to national election. But it's very important to talk about the international, because we are part of the European Union. And if the European Union has to be more integrated and more centered into each other, then we also need to give the same fair amount of chances to the people voting as we do for the municipality elections. If you come here, you live here, you work here, and you have your children here and your working life, then you should also be able to attend the national elections. We can always discuss when and how long you should be sitting here for. But if you are part of the community, then we should respect you as a part of that community, also with equal right to vote. And of course, the green agenda. In Denmark, we have 1.6% nature left. That is the lowest in all of the European countries. And we need to get more of these wild nature's areas out there, also due to our drinking water, because it cleans out the drinking waters. And in the future, we will see lots of problem with the drinking water, as you might have heard in national election as well. And the best way we can do that is actually to put up more forests, more woods in the rural areas of Denmark, where we now have farming lands. So that's me. My name is Emil Moslund, 32 years old, and sitting council member in Copenhagen, and now running for national election.
Excellent. Thank you guys for joining us. I just want to set the stage for the conversation today, and it's based on something a little bit unusual. We're bringing you the political voice of people who normally don't have one in these elections.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what we're going to do is that we're going to tell you what were the results of the survey and see what are the main themes that were most interesting for internationals to hear your opinion about. And we can choose to talk about, let's just say, top 3, or to be honest, you can select from there something that you feel most strongly about it. We can see what's best, but first we will share with you the data from the survey. I don't know if you know, but Lask in Denmark has 30,000 people who read it across 9 languages in Denmark every week. So it's quite popular, you could say. So when we ran the survey, we got quite a lot of results, and here's data. Here's what we got. So I'll start with the issues, and then Conrad will be presenting what parties will they vote if they had the right to vote. But remember, a lot of this, the party vote is very heavily influenced by the fact that which parties have shown, let's say, interest, and which parties have shown that they are more willing to put the barriers. So it's not a reflection of how we as internationals are politically, but it's more like who would you vote for to ensure your survival in Denmark. So let's start with the issues. The top 3 issues that we had in the survey are obviously based on I'm quite surprised that these are the ones, but it seems that actually, even though most internationals don't speak Danish and they cannot vote in these elections, they do follow the main topics, because the top 3 topics with 43%, 42%, and 32% are: the first one is the wealth tax. Actually, the wealth tax has gone heavily among internationals on LinkedIn. Many internationals are on LinkedIn, to be honest. And many of them dream to make it big and dream to have a company that's very well worth it, right? A lot of internationals are actually entrepreneurs. If you look in statistics in every city, a large majority of entrepreneurs are of international background. So the wealth tax was one of the most interesting topics for them. Then the second topic is retirement age. Of course, many of them come from other EU countries. I would say half of the people, at least in Denmark, who are internationals. And they come from places where the age expect, like let's say the retirement age is much, much lower. Especially, for example, Romania, where it's light years from when you have to retire in Denmark. So a lot of them got a bit scared when they saw, okay, wow, if it follows life expectancy, would we retire when we are 76, 73? People are not so keen or happy about that. And then the third one is obviously the quality of tap water. The whole idea that Denmark has one of the cleanest tap water out there, and you keep showing off to tourists and to people visiting you from other countries, oh, you don't have to buy water here, you just have to turn on the tap water. And now, out of a sudden, we have to question it. Is tap water really okay, actually? Are we still having the best tap water in the world or not? Can we still be proud of it? That's a question, right? The quality of tap water. And of course, if you are to look at the other ones, let's say with between 27-20% of the people were interested in making sure that we continue to support Ukraine. They were curious about the possibility of retiring early. And of course, many of them got a bit annoyed by the deportation laws. The fact that no matter what crime you commit or something like that, you get to be deported. That's a bit hardcore and crazy, and a lot of people can use that. I have a few friends who got very scared of it because they said, oh, I go to a club, someone who wants to get rid of me will just initiate a fight with me. Out of a sudden, because I'm the international, I'll be at fault anyway. That's their situation, that's the reality. And out of a sudden, I'm deported. Game 1-0 for the guy who wanted to get rid of me. A lot of people are saying that. It's very weird to make such scenarios in your head, but people got really scared when they made it so easy to be deported. Then, of course, let's just say the last things that people were interested in were remigration, 13%, the reduction of development aid, 10%, and abolishing property value was also around 12%. The least interesting topic for them was the restoration of the Great Prayer Day, 6%. That was not so interesting for them. It's okay. It's a free day. It's not there. It's there. Why do we care so much about it? Very little interest in that. So that was the data in terms of topics. Konrad, let's see the parties.
And when we asked them who they would vote for, we saw something very interesting. So the results of the last week in Denmark survey said, the question was, if internationals could vote, who would you vote for? And the answers were as the following. So coming in at top was 25.9%. So over a quarter of people were saying SF, Socialist Folkeparti, so the Green Left. Below them, second place was 18.5 was Enhedslisten, the Red-Green Alliance. 13.6 is Meals Party, Radikale Venstre, the Social Liberals. Then it's 12.3 for Moderaterne, which, the translation is also Social Liberals. 12.3 for Social Democrats, and 3.7 for Venstre, 2.5 for the Liberal Alliance, 2.5 for Alternative, the Greens, and then coming in very low down, 1.2 for the Conservatives, 0 for Danske Demokraterne, and 4.9 would not support any of the parties on the ballot. So already we've seen a political group that is engaged, opinionated, however, not represented in the ballot box.
So as you can see, 70+% are very much towards a red party, but not necessarily because internationals are by nature left-wingers. Internationals are just as diverse politically. It's only because those parties have sent signals that they will be more lenient and more willing to ensure their security, that they will not be one day put in a camp and deported. That's the biggest fear as an international you have in Denmark. You have to live every day with the fear that one day you will be rounded up and put in a camp, you and your children, even though they're born here. So let me see. What do you think about the results, Emil, Niklas?
Well, I'm at the bottom in terms of the polls, so I can go first. Well, I think it's, of course, quite concerning that so many internationals feel left out from the right-wing parties. I mean, there's a clear tendency here where the internationals are leaning toward the left side. But perhaps it's also an opportunity for us right-wing parties to do some reflections. Perhaps the internationals aren't feeling included in right-wing policies. And that is definitely something that we should look into. I think that many internationals are living in the big cities. It's my view. And of course, these cities are more left-leaning. So there's some work to do for the Conservatives, but we can start right now. It's a pleasure to be here and we can discuss.
Super. Thank you, Niklas.
What I find very much interesting in what you said about the survey is that the wealth tax is so much up there on the agenda. I would say, as none of our party, either my colleague here and myself, is supporting the wealth tax. I would say that the Conservative, even though that they are actually quite ambitious on the green agenda sometimes, the Social Liberal Party, which I represent, have an argument that we rather want to have a green tax, a CO2 emission tax, that will you say equal out the wealth tax, because the people who actually do the most damage to our wealth and to our CO2 emissions is actually the wealthiest people. So actually having a green taxation will actually make the companies, the most wealthy individuals in this country, actually have them pay more than they actually do, and actually in the end of the day change their behavior and change their company behavior into being more greener. So I found that very much interesting. And also quite interesting that the survey goes out saying that the Union Party, that is Enhedslisten and the Socialist Folkeparti, has a majority over my party, the Social Liberal Party, as the Social Liberal Party are the most pro-EU of all the parties that is existing in national parliament. Union Party wants to go out, leave the European Union, and the Socialist People Party have taken turn over the past 5 to 10 years, where they are now supporting the ghetto laws, some deportation suggestions from the government. So it's actually quite interesting that so many people actually want to vote for those parties when themselves are immigrants.
I mean, you have to understand this. Internationals in general don't have the possibility to choose with their, let's say, in the same way as a Dane will choose. Because first of all, you need to choose a party that through their messaging have sent this symbol that's saying, we are there for you, we will make sure that you will not be in danger or in a bad situation one day. So I have many friends of mine who vote red, but in the local elections, for example, but they are not red. They are far from red. They will hate any sort of more taxation or anything of expansion of the public system. They're true Republicans, but they vote red because they feel like if they vote blue, that's unsafe. So here we were talking, do we even have a choice? Even in the elections where we can vote, actually, local and European, I mean, for us as European citizens at least, do we even have a choice, right? We have to vote with the survival in mind, not with the true political compass that we have. So I think the only way we ever can balance things is if the right-wing parties are also going to start sending a message saying, look, we care about changing things like wealth tax or being more militaristic, less militaristic, but we will not one day focus on getting rid of you. I think that's what people are waiting for. I think once the right-wing parties will be more open to the idea that we also accept internationals, you're part of society, you're part of being here. We should not debate if you should be here or not. We should just debate what we all as a society should do. Should we be taxed more, less? Should we put more money in this direction or that direction? I think once the focus is being switched away the spotlight from internationals, and you see internationals as part of, let's say, larger society groups. Let's say I'm live in Copenhagen, I bike to work. So I will identify myself with the same group in Denmark that also votes with the party that, supports the rights of the bikers and the rights of people living in Copenhagen. Or I live in the rural area, I have only farmers around me. Maybe I will vote Venstre and a farmer party if I was to see the message from Venstre that they are also okay with me. So I think that's the problem there. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the one thing that's puzzling me right now is that the second big party that they want to vote for was the Union Party. Okay, they are the far extreme left of Denmark, right? And what puzzles me the most is that, and my colleague from the Conservative can also argue this, I think, is that we would expect people coming here from Denmark because they like the way Denmark is. And from many countries around the world, the totalitarian states, you can call them, have either the extreme right or the extreme left in power. So going to the extreme right or left would be, in my argument, counterintuitive of the people coming here from these countries, because there was a reason, I imagine, there was a reason why they actually left the country in the first place, because maybe there was lack of freedom or lack of expression. And maybe the wealth in Denmark was just a nice thing to work towards. And if you vote for the extreme left or the extreme right, doesn't matter really with either side. I would argue, as a center party, of course, that would make Denmark more poor in each direction, you mean?
Emil, sorry, but you assume that people or internationals have a general knowledge that Enhedslisten or Red Green Alliance has people know that is the former Communist Party or that they are extreme left. They don't know that. They hear only messaging from Pelle Dragsted saying that, the right-wing parties are going too far, we should be supporting and everyone has a value, we should be welcoming everyone. You have to understand, it's only the messaging that goes through. You expect people to be political theorists. They're not that. So it's about what messaging goes through in society. So every time there's a debate about internationals, which parties stand out with their messaging? And it, unfortunately for you, it's the Red Green Alliance that often stands out. I mean, I'm not a voter of them, but I can appreciate the fact that they're not afraid to take a very pro-international stance every time, and not just internationals as a whole, but also subgroups of internationals like Muslims or Middle Easterners which are even more, let's just say, hot topics out there compared to the overall internationals as a whole.
But as long as the international citizens of Denmark are not allowed to vote for the national election, there are no reason for any party, except those parties who already does it. That is my party and Socialist People's Party and maybe the Union Party, the Enhedslisten, actually do something about this area and talk about this area, because there's no reason for talking about the area. You can ask my Conservative colleague now, because for his party, there's no reason for actually begging for votes for the international community when the international communities cannot vote.
Niklas, want to take this?
Of course, there is no immediate gain in talking internationals in Denmark, but it should be obvious to any party that there is a group of people that come to Denmark. They might not be able to vote yet, but they are living in Denmark. They might be studying here, they might be working here, and they're probably going to try and make a future in Denmark. And so we also have to talk about internationals in Denmark from both political sides. And I think that it's very interesting that you use the word political service, because I completely agree. Why would they go and explore the individual parties' political positions? I imagine that we should make it easier for internationals to get into Danish politics by giving them, for example, a better access to elections. But I also have this view, a very conservative view, some might argue, that you need to be a Danish citizen in order to vote for the parliament elections. And that's like a red line for me, but that does not mean we cannot include internationals in political work around Denmark.
I would completely agree with you, Nicholas, because I think there's a lot of internationals, at least that I talk to, that have argued that they should be able to vote in the national election, but I don't agree. I actually think that it would be really interesting to see people who became citizens through the test, who do they vote for? I think that would be really interesting to know, because I think then maybe you get to what Narcis said about, okay, now I can actually maybe go right wing if I am, agree with those views, or maybe I am Enhedslisten even though. So at least from myself, all I see is that anytime that Danmarks Demokraterne promote anything, my immediate fear is they're just going to sweep up all the internationals for anything bad that any immigrant has done, and that's going to affect me. So I'm never going to vote for them. So I don't even look into their other policies. So I think everybody is actually agreeing it's a weird situation. But I do agree with you, Nicholas. I don't think that people who can leave tomorrow and who are also able to vote in their own country in their own elections should be able to vote in Denmark. That doesn't make sense to me.
But can I argue that in another direction? Because the fact of the matter is that no party is arguing that anyone coming here on the first day should be able to vote for national election. Nobody is arguing that. The argumentation is that if you are here working and you are contributing to the society, if you have kids here, if you have a life here, and you've been living here for a certain amount of years, contributing to society, then you should at least be considered to be able to also vote for the municipality or the national election that you are, either way for which country you're from. Because in this country, we have something called equal share of rights and equal share of responsibility. So if you are contributing to society, then we also will give you that luxurious standpoint to also be influencing that society. So my party stands for the fact that international comes here, and we should not look into their mindsets of things, because that is just mind control shit, so to say. That is the social democrats who have made out this new idea that even though that you are well-paid lawyer, well-paid member of society, have maybe a board member position in your nursing school, in your kids' school, then we will still have the right to question whether you are properly Dane, whether you're proper in your thoughts of access. And I bet differ on that one. I'm not saying that everyone coming in here should be able to vote for municipality or national election. But right now we have the standpoint that any European citizen can vote in every municipality election. And I argue the fact that we are very much similar in mindset, all of the European countries. Why is that? The national election would be so much different from the local election.
It's actually a really good point. I think you changed my mind on that. Like, if you draw a line, is it about citizenship, or where do you draw that line?
My argument will be that it should, when it comes to voting for national election, citizenship would be a great line. But right now, citizenship is so fucking hard to gain in Denmark. Really, really hard to gain. I have friends who have lived here all their life. I have friends who have studied here in many years. But due to the fact that the law says you have to be working here for 3 years, first of all, in order just to apply for a citizenship and get access to the process. So when you are a part of the system, you speak fluent, you're even born here. As long as you don't work here 3 years continuously, while you might take your education, then you are not even in the process of being accessed to vote. And we have 1 out of 8 people in Denmark not be able to vote. We have 16.5 people living here in Denmark not being able to vote. That's a huge amount of people set outside of democratic rights. And at the end of the day, how can we expect people to integrate and be a part of society if we don't give them the right to be so?
I mean, I see that the conversation has already switched heavily towards citizenship, because, to be honest, we said earlier that the top, top team was the wealth tax. Actually, we kept that the top team by 78%.
Yeah, that's true.
was actually citizenship. A lot of internationals care about citizenship heavily. Maybe not so much the European Union citizens, because we are protected by European law. So no matter how bad DD and DF wants to harm us, they can barely do anything. But unfortunately, among the internationals, there's also non-Europeans. And for them, life is a bit hard. Not a bit, actually quite hard in Denmark. So for them, citizenship is the dream. Just like in US, everyone is aiming for that citizenship because that's the dream. For non-Europeans in Denmark, the dream is citizenship. So I'm curious about both you, Niklas, and then afterwards, Emil, about citizenship, right? If citizenship was how can we work with that, right, Konrad? What would you say is
Yes, exactly.
a proposal in citizenship that we could go?
Exactly. So if we ask, what if citizenship was automatic at birth and available after 10 years of residence? Would you guys agree that that would be the criteria?
Very simple.
Absolutely. 10 years of citizenship. And I would add to that, if you have made a contribution to the municipality areas where you live, and you have maybe a certain amount of education behind you, then we could go even further. Then it could be 8 years or 7 years or 6 years or 5 years. It matters of what you do in life, not who you are in life.
Niklas, what do you think?
Well, my position is perhaps unpopular, but I do not agree with Radikale Venstres' position on this kind of policy, because it is my impression that if you speak Danish, you go to Danish school, and you haven't done any criminality, then Radikale Venstre would like to give these people the citizenship kind of automatically, like for example in this case, if they are born here and live for 10 years. But it's just not how I view our society. I think that getting a Danish citizenship is probably the most important gift you can get in our society. And there are cases where people have fled from terrible wars. They've gotten to Denmark and they're living here in our society. And they might have children here because we are human. And those children might go to Danish school. They might be here for many years. But there are some fundamentals and some requirements that you have to be able to live up to in order to get the citizenship. Right now, we have a rule that says you have to be living here for 9 years. You have to not be on any kind of public services. You have to speak Danish, and you have to have not done any sort of crime. To be honest, I think that's quite fair. I think it's hard to achieve citizenship, but I think it's fair. I think we have to have high standards as a society, because this is forever. Once you have the citizenship, there is no going back. There might be some political parties that are implying that this could be possible, but it's not. We cannot make people stateless.
Can I ask you, Niklas, is that high enough? Why don't we even further? Do you support going further in that direction, getting it more difficult to get citizenship?
I think it's an interesting question you raised there, because I believe that 9 years is appropriate. We could also discuss other policies about what certain limit or period it should be for. But I think that 9 years is quite fair, to be honest. I could also probably support 10 years, but I could probably also support 8 years. So it's not like there is a definitive line, and we can discuss that politically and make some changes that are necessary. What is important for me is that we uphold Danish citizenship to the highest standard as possible, but that we also make it easier for internationals to integrate into Danish society. And that can be from living here, from working here. And then we should also make it easier once those people live up to these criteria, because they're not impossible. They're just hard.
And I would argue the fact that different people require different kind of access gain. So one cannot put every international citizen in this country out in over one line. You have to discriminate actually in order to make sure that you get equal fair chances. There are some here who comes and actually have been working many years, maybe in other countries, in European countries. They have the same difficulties getting that citizenship as other peoples do. And we want, actually the fact of the matter is that we need internationals to come here. They are the backbone of the economy. 120% rose our GDP last year compared to this year. And the Economic Board of Denmark said that it is due to the fact that we have international that it has grown so much. So they contribute to our wealth very, very much so. So you want them to stay here. And the fact of the matter is, I know from experience as a council member in Denmark, in Copenhagen, the municipality capital of Denmark, that we have difficulties getting the right kind of experience. And as long as we get it, making it so much difficult to actually stay here and being a part of that society, the more difficulties we will face in the future. The average years for an international living in Denmark is 3 years, just 3 years. And we really want people to stay here longer, because that's a backbone of much that we actually are seeing as a wealth in this country.
Niklas, do you want to take that
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment on that because I find it interesting that you like to like you mentioned yourself discriminate because some people should be more welcome than others. I believe that we should have strict but fair immigration laws that allow internationals to come to Denmark that want to work here, that want to contribute to our society. But we need to uphold the standard for the citizenship.
I just have a question. I have two children, a daughter and a boy. They're born here in Denmark. Why should they wait till they're 18 to get their Danish citizenship just because they're not born out of Danish parents? They will all their life they will be seen as different than their colleagues. And I noticed this in the Romanian community. I'm Romanian, by the way. I noticed this in the Romanian community a lot. Their children do not fit in. They're being discriminated. They're facing a lot of difficulties in Danish school. Simply, our community feels like we are not welcome in Denmark, heavily. Like a lot of parents are afraid, first of all, when the children are small, that the state will take their children. There's a real fear that the state will take your child for whatever reason, because simply there's a case study worker that is way too ambitious and wants to get numbers up. And then you have in school, the children get in school, they're being discriminated by teachers. They're no matter if there's a side between a Danish child and a Romanian child, the Danish child will always be prioritized no matter what by the teachers, because teachers are subconsciously supporting their own kind. So that's the reality of things. That's the reality of Denmark that we, the Romanian community, have to face. So question here, Niklas, we are Europeans. We don't need to integrate into Denmark. We are home since the moment Denmark and Romania both joined European Union. So why should we face these difficulties?
Well, thank you for the brilliant question, Narcis, because first of all, I have deep sympathy for internationals coming to Denmark and they are feeling outside. That should not be part of daily life. However, I do believe that no matter if, let's say, a Romanian child had a Danish citizenship or not, this sort of discrimination would probably still ongo. And that's a whole nother topic I think we can discuss about our society and the way that our schools are operating. What I forgot about last time, my point was that we have had issues here in Denmark where internationals are coming to Denmark to study. They might be living off public services, the SU. And then once they have their education, if they have not found an adequate job in time, they will move back to the country they moved from in the first place. And we have to make it more attractive for internationals to stay in Denmark. And we can have a discussion about how we do that. But I don't believe that Denmark should have it like the US has it, where in the US, if you have children in the country, they are automatically becoming citizens. That's not a society that I believe is fair. I think that if you really want to gain the Danish citizenships, there are some requirements and strict requirements that have to be withheld. And once you do that, and once you are granted the Danish citizenship, you shall have the exact same rights as any other Danish citizenships without any sort of discrimination. And there are some cultural factors here in terms of our school systems and other places in society. But that is my position on this.
But Niklas, don't you think that we as European Union citizens should have the same rights as the Danish citizens? There should be no difference between us.
No, that is my short answer, because no, I do think that we have a European Union with rights, right to roam, freedom of movement, all these sorts of things. But at least my ambition is not a supranational state where we are all united under one flag and we have the exact same rights. We are different countries with different cultures, with different backgrounds, even with different political systems. But we can cooperate on a international level and fix things that are going beyond the individual countries. And that is the kind of life and world I want to live in.
Can I bid in here?
Please.
Because every European Union's every European country state is actually already united all under several flags. They're united under European flags, the NATO flag, the Trade Atlantic flags. They're under so many Union flags that having to draw that line, just that they're not a part of the Dannebrog, as the Danish flag, is just absurd, really. To have a child that has been born here and go through the phase of not only 18 years, but it's not because you cannot get the citizenship just because you're 18 in this country. You have to go through 18 years. Then you have to go through school, maybe university, because you are maybe a person who actually want to stay here actually because you are, frankly speaking, born here. Then you have to go through high school. You have to go through university. After that, you have to go into working force. You could be a civil servant for that matter. I've met people who are civil servant at my city hall councillor counseling me in municipality areas who are not national citizenship. Not have national citizenship. And that's because you have to be here for so many years, working here for so many years, even though you're born here, and we don't put a child to work, do we? So we have to wait all these years with that insecurity in mind, that actually you can actually be deported because you don't share the same right as your fellow colleague, as your childhood friend, or in your school friend. You don't share that. We can always have many discussions, and where do we draw the line? Is that when you come to Denmark as a workforce area, as expertise, and so forth. But let's just face it, when it comes to the children who are working here, living here, born here, bred here, being a part of this country, don't know anything else. Should we as a society, and I'm talking from a very pro-European party who wants a European federalized municipal community here in Denmark as well, should we draw the line and say, you as a person born, bred, and built up here, you are not equal to everyone you have been knowing for the past 25 years of your life. You don't know any country else. Should we draw that line with them?
So, Niklas, would you like a last 30 seconds?
Sure, it'll be short. I mean, again, I have deep sympathy for what you're saying, but I think we can both agree that, let's just say, during this period, I think it was quite a good comment about we don't put children to work. No, we don't. But if both parents gain the Danish citizenship whilst a child is growing up, I can agree with you that this child should probably gain citizenship, and we can work on that, you and me. But I don't think that you can just say because you've stayed here for so long, you are automatically gaining it. Like, you have to have these requirements.
Let's work on that if we both get into national parliament. You agree on this?
Let's do that.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And we're going to go now into the closing part. So if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I can vote anyway, here's the important part. You actually can still influence the outcome. I know that this, when you're listening to this episode, probably there's only a couple of days left until the elections, but still, even those last days, the candidates need help. So, Konrad.
Danish politics, it runs on people, and campaigns need volunteers, and they need voices, and they need energy.
Exactly. You can join a campaign. You can join maybe Niklas' campaign if you like what he says. You can join Emil's campaign if you like what he says. You can attend debates. There will still be, in the last days, quite a few. You can contact candidates directly. And yes, you can ask for something in return. You know, we are in a transactional society. You do something for me, I do something for you. So, just tell them, support, make citizenship more realistic, more fair, and then I can support you.
And enough people do that, you're no longer invisible in the system.
So maybe the question is not just what if internationals could vote, but what happens when internationals start acting like they already matter?
Exactly, because you do.
And thanks for listening to Vote Home. Thank you, Niklas. Thank you, Emil. Thank you, Konrad, for this episode. See you at episode 2 after the elections. Thank you. Bye.